Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on the personal adjustment from creating a new normal, especially in the event of all that is going on. It becomes a real pressing question. How do you create the adjustment? And as we say here, become empowered, enacted, inspired, and really living in your higher order thinking process to create that effectual change and adjustment, particularly that of reframing. When we talk about adjusting to a new normal, there is a really important psychological concept called that of reframing, meaning being able to look at an event and understanding the meaning that you are drawing from it and making sure that that meaning is not based on fear or clouded thinking. Fear stands for false evidence appearing real. Oftentimes, the panic, the distraction, the feeling that, things aren't going to go your way, that you're unhappy, that you're limited, or you don't like what you're seeing in the world, or you're experiencing a lot of personal limitation and change. And this is, causing a lot of distress. When we talk about, people who have been through traumatizing relationships, relationships where there was some psychopathy, where there was some deception, manipulation, toxic control, not allowing people to be and express themselves, forcing them to live in the dark, live in the basement, live in the attic, live, basically unheard and what they feel is unseen. We're seeing a lot of activism, not only, in the world, but there is a personal uprising that, that is shaking at the foundation. And this can be very uncomfortable and distressful, and really it can cause depression and anxiety, and to a degree a hopelessness. For people who have been through traumatizing relationships and they find themselves attached or have a trauma bond to people who are narcissistic or controlling, who live on that superiority complex, who have been deluded, who have been manipulated, who have been pathologically lied to, cheated on. You know who you are. You know what you've been through. It's important to understand the cause that's created an effect in you. And it's not about blaming others. It's about taking personal responsibility for your I am, who you are and your becoming. It's important, especially as people mature, that they need to be generative and continue to grow and contribute. Especially as people get older, they and you're maybe evolving from some relationships that didn't give you a opportunity for personal growth or happiness. Instead, you were under someone's thumb all the time. You were under somebody's umbrella. You were under somebody's pillowcase, whatever it is. They put your head under the sand, and they were, as we talk a lot on the channel about narcissistic and psychopathic dynamics, oftentimes it is a very disempowering and discouraging position for others to be in. They, then feel apathetic and ineffectual for change, either for their own life or effectual of change in the world. This is a very distressed place to be in. You don't need to live under that guise of limitation. That is what is known as sort of indoctrinated lack of self-belief or limiting self-beliefs. So realize that these self-limiting beliefs oftentimes keep people very down low or not, really living a certain vibrancy of life that they would truly like to have because of inhibition, because of shame, because they feel that they would be judged, because they feel that they would be criticized, because they feel they would not be supported. It's too much. It's too silly. It's too crazy. We can't, there's all this sort of shooting down, and it becomes a toxic criticism or, a shutting down of somebody's heart, mission, vision, and desire. This is oftentimes occurring in situations like a pandemic because the everyday is now ripped apart at the seams. The tapestry of your regular routine is no longer the design. Has to be redesigned, like an interior design specialist has to come in and go, we need to change it up over here. We need to brighten up this corner. We need to, put some color over here. We need to get some fabric. We need to get some texture. We need to get some wood. We need to get some stone. We need to get some paintings. We need to liven this up a little bit. That's creating an environment that is conducive to happiness and feeding and nurturing the soul, which is really the emotional body, which is really what is engaged now in the event of this pandemic. The internal dialogue, you need to be able to adjust to a new normal and create this. You need to understand the cause that creates the effect and really understand your why. When we're talking about the internal, the importance and relevance of internal dialogue, oftentimes internal dialogue goes unchecked. We think between 85 and 90 thoughts a day. Dr. Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, a great book. He's a great orator, a great speaker. He hosts a lot of workshops. His personal story is amazing. I would definitely recommend you check him out here on YouTube, and especially his TED Talks, and he talks about the three brains. TED Talks is TED Talks, TALKS. You can research him here on YouTube. Why don't you do this? Why don't you enforce self-education during this time and really make these adjustments? It's like the puzzle piece. Your day is like a puzzle piece or creating a big picture. If you feel that you're in the Gestalt, you're kind of missing things. That's known as Gestalt psychology, or a situation where the mind will fill in what is missing to give it a completion or big picture. So you need to, I feel, sort of have an internal interaction and upgrade your internal dialogue so that you can begin to adjust those voids and deficits that create sort of that shattered picture. So the internal dialogue is where we need to do the work. And that oftentimes needs to be arrived at by a cool, calm, collected physiology. In other words, if you're running around spastic and chaotic and you're reacting to this engineered chaos that we see in the news, you're not going to be in your best frame of mind. Society won't tell you that. A commercial won't tell you that. They won't come on with a public service announcement. Hey guys, don't get over inundated and overwhelmed here and lose hope. You've lost your job. I mean, all these things, oftentimes it's out of balance. It is too much. So you have to understand the role of self-enforcement. Self-enforcement, otherwise known as self-governing or autonomy. This is one of the very first stages that the individual child goes through, is that of autonomy or dependence. And if these stages aren't met, it can set a trajectory on a path to a very different place. So you have to understand and sort of go back and understand the importance of having this stage dealt with effectually, i.e. with the outcome and result of autonomy and self-governing. There was a great writer, Thomas Descartes, or Thomas Hobbes. I mean, go back to some of those writers. They have great written discussions of, self, the tabula rasa, the clean slate, and you're understanding that you then begin to affect that clean slate, and also the people who you interact with will affect that clean slate. Will it be vibrant and bright and clear, or will the slate be muddy and filled with fear or foggy thinking, which is based on fear, obligation, and guilt? That contributes to foggy thinking. and oftentimes not thinking clearly and being able to be assertive enough to affect change within yourself. So we see this apathy or lack of change. People are uprising. They're like, we don't want any more lip service. We want real change. And a lot of people need this on the individual basis as well. It's kind of brought everything to the surface. So when we talk about internal dialogue, we're talking about the power of I am. And the understanding that, as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, that oftentimes, when people think these thoughts, they're perhaps 90 to 95% the same thoughts that they thought the day before. So it's kind of like you're running on automatic pilot and auto-suggestion. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. He talks about changing this and the importance of having a mastermind group to bring this out into reality. In other words, surrounding yourself with like-minded thinking people. So not only is it important for you to understand and tap into the I am, but also to have the self-governing and enforcement of this. If you do not have the awareness to enforce and self-govern, you are not going to have the results or the outcome. It's just period, end of story. If you don't if you don't put one foot in front of the other, you are not going to make traction. You are not going to affect your perspective. You have to understand the role and significance and seriousness and importance of self-enforcement. Many years ago, many moons ago, many decades ago, I worked in a social service organization that was a very wonderful, very grueling work, very difficult work, especially from a mindset level. And we did study sign language, and the sign language for important is this. So you bring it to the top. In other words, sign language, we're seeing a lot of sign language in a lot of these talks, that oftentimes people don't know what they're saying, is very pictorial. So understanding that importance means it's like this. So if you take your this and you go to the top, you can look at a book and study sign language, but this is important, means it's on top of everything. On top of everything. So that is where we need to be, on top of everything. That is in other words, it's important. All this other stuff, let it go. This is important, giving time for what is important. So understanding that the internal dialogue is where we need to affect change and have the leverage. Leverage meaning you have to understand the effect of free will, as well as the understanding that oftentimes your thoughts, like Dr. Joe Dispenza, are the same day to day. So if you have the same thoughts, you're going to have the same outcome, you're going to have the same results, and you're going to stay in the same place. If you like where you're at, great, then you would continue that. But if you don't, or you want to affect change to the new normal, don't worry about it. You have the power. You literally have the power to create and manifest the new. This is known as being assertive, and you have to have that internal leverage over yourself. And oftentimes you need to affect that through change, meaning and giving your internal self commands, which means you have to, your subconscious mind, which is that seat of auto-suggestion. Read Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. He talks about the power of auto-suggestion, meaning once you have affected change and given yourself that command, it'll begin then to work for you. You have to plant the seed. You have to plant the right seed to get the right plant. If you plant an oak tree and you're wanting to plant a rose bush, you're going to have a completely different experience. So the same thing with the thoughts. The affirmation needs to be a command. The subconscious mind works by command. If you instruct it to be, I am strong, you're going to resonate and be attached and live and embody your strength. If you continue to say, I am weak, I am horrible, I'm a terrible person, I am so this, then you're going to corrode and corrupt your internal dialogue and your emotional body. Likewise, if you have filled your mind and thoughts or been surrounded with people who are narcissistic, judging, bully, psychopathic, antisocial, giving you fake news, making you think this and distract you from that. You've been affected by people who have double and triple lives, who you don't, who have left you, maybe with a family without another adult. Think about the need for effectual change, no matter what. If you want to have change in your life, you have to be at the point in your life, as if in a book, what was it by? I'm going to think of the author here. Actually, I think his name was a speaker called Jim Rohn. But he talks about learning and meeting an individual at a beach that was like an instructor to him, who was very advanced and affluent in his life. And he was like a coach. And he was at the beach and he met this one stranger. And he talked about, do you want to become, this star athlete? And you have to, he told him, if you want the change, you have to have the leverage to the degree that you are almost as if gasping for air. It's as if someone had put your head under a water spigot and you couldn't breathe and you wanted change that bad. In other words, get me out from under this water spigot. I need to breathe. So understanding the leverage, you need to understand that your leverage that is fueling your self-governing and your self-enforcing has to come from that commitment level. In other words, I need to get my head out of this spigot. I cannot breathe. I cannot see. I am not happy. I'm not out with people. Do you see and understand this analogy? You have to understand the power of the word. Words have power, and thoughts are things. Words will create your reality. You're not going to hear this on, NBC, CNBC, or maybe you might hear some of this on Oprah or some of the other shows, but oftentimes this is not in the education. So we're bringing this forth and understanding that your empowerment needs to be based and coming from a abundance or mentality, sort of a abundance mentality, and understanding how that mentality affects your thoughts. So if you're coming from a poverty consciousness, you're going to say, I need to, I have to, and then I don't. In other words, you're reaffirming the fact that you don't have something, versus the positive. One thing I really like about the movement right now is they're saying this is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. In other words, they're living in the positive. They're in action. They are activists. One thing I talk about in the book that I'm working on, how important it is to have a mentor, especially that affects your internal dialogue. If you are in the positive versus the negative, it's important to understand that because you're reaffirming a specific image or reality to yourself that you are going to then, like a train of thought, your life is going to follow by that engine. Meaning that if you say, we have to, or I need, you're emphasizing the fact that you don't have that. It's very, very subtle, but you have to understand the power of the thought and the power of the word. It's very, very, very significant. And so if you are giving yourself that command, you have to create an effectual change. And so to create that, it has to be framed in the positive. I will, meaning I will get up. For example, let's say you had a change of your job and you're starting at a different time, and you're going at your old alarm and your old alarm is making you late. So you need to adjust your alarm, but oftentimes people miss their alarm. So you have to give yourself the command, and plant the seed, the command, I will get up at 6:30. I will get up at 5:30. I will, and give yourself the command. So in other words, you can use this also when you come into contact when you're triggered. It's the same thing. You're overriding, that bad habit. You're overriding that ineffectual thought pattern. So you can enact change, but you need self-enforcement, and you do that with the affirmation and the command to self that enacts the free will. You're in your higher order thinking, and your body will follow through auto-suggestion. All of a sudden, when you are living then in auto-suggestion, Napoleon Hill, you're basically allowing the subconscious to do the work for you. So it is not a struggle. This is also the same thing as going from the unconsciously incompetent to the consciously competent. We talked that in previous videos about the change and transformation through these phases where you are basically have learned something and you're doing it automatically. That is the level of change you want to get to when we talk about adjusting to the new normal. We're going to pick this up on a new video and another video in a series here. I hope this is your buddy, peace and harmony with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. And before we go, I want you to go to the next session and continue to write these things down because it's so important. I will. So and before we wrap up this, we're going to go, but just to understand that your commands need to be phrased in the positive. I will. I will. I am. I am, and then putting your, command. I am. As well as the change that you want to make, followed by no matter what. The change that you want, no matter what. And you need to have this written down in big, bold writing on a paper in front of you that greets you in the morning. When you're in the morning, you're at your best thoughts, you're at your sharpest, you're refreshed, all the neurochemicals and neurohormones are settled, you're refreshed, you've detoxed from the previous, stimulation and input from the day. So you need to have the written statement. If you're shy about this, you need to realize that if you're shy about change or not doing something, you are evaluating yourself and saying, I don't need to do this. That is internal dialogue that's stopping you when in fact you really do. So you need to release the shame and the self-limiting beliefs that are stopping you from effective change in your life. You need to adjust the internal dialogue. In other words, if you need to create a change of perspective, a better vision, if you need to read more, if you need to walk more, if you need to eat more healthy, if you need to have time to calm down and settle your emotions, exercise, get involved in a hobby, get involved in a mission statement for your life, create a new business venture, upgrade your profession. You need to have self-governing and self-enforcement and phrase it in the positive. In other words, if you need to read, your statement would say in the morning, really big in bold letters, and you might have it in orange, you might have it in black, you might have it in red, but it would say, read no matter what. And then at the time of change that you want to affect, or research no matter what, walk no matter what, be calm no matter what, don't fall for the trap of the narcissist no matter what, don't feel ashamed because of other people's judgment no matter what, stand up straight no matter what, hold up my chin and have a positive feeling of self-regard no matter what. This is a command. You need to give the subconscious a command so it can know what to do. Your mind is like a computer. A big, field today is computer programming, computer engineering, computer science, IT, artificial intelligence. This is all based on command. Your brain is the same way. Your life is the same way. Your heart will follow and engender and invigor your passion and your energy and your emotion and your personal satisfaction, and that will follow. But you have to give yourself the command in the positive to get out of the rut that has been imprinted. Realize that the thoughts are, if they're repeated, for days and days and days, like Dr. Joe Dispenza says, 90 to 95% of those 90,000 thoughts that people speak every day are the same. So if you're thinking the same thing, brushing your teeth the same way, holding your head down low, feeling depressed, you've had bad emotional habits. You're going to get, and these do get worse with time. If you have not exercised and you're feeling stiff, you're not exercising because you're stiff. You're stiff because you're not exercising. You have to understand the cause that creates the effect and understand the real. So you back it up by the why. Backing it up by the why. Meaning, you have to know the reason why you want to change. For example, I love summer. I love spring. I love the heat. I love flowers. I love outdoor festivals. I love outdoor restaurants. I love walking. I love biking. I love the nature. I love traveling. I love sightseeing. And summer, if you're in a place where you've got seasons or what have you, or lots of rain and you can't go out, you might have something that you love. So you have to realize that is your why. So you need to format your thoughts and write them down. So in other words, if you want change for how you feel, if it's about pride of self or contribution or activity in your life, you need to give yourself command and then understand why you are doing this. For example, if you love the summer and the days are longer and you want to go out and enjoy it, then you might say, enjoy this summer no matter what. Walk no matter what. Take pictures no matter what. Do research no matter what. Play video games no matter what. Play solitaire no matter what. Play cards no matter what. Make a puzzle no matter what. Go for a bike ride no matter what. Paint a new painting no matter what. Throw a new pot of clay no matter what. Read a paragraph no matter what. Call a friend no matter what. Enroll in a workshop no matter what. Listen to a podcast no matter what. Fund and make a charitable donation to a cause no matter what. Be in touch with my personal mission no matter what. So you have to understand that there's two simple elements. You have to understand the why. So for myself, I would be very upset if I slept through all of summer. I would then want to get up earlier so I can see the sunrise. So I might set my alarm a little bit earlier. The first alarms that I set, I completely sleep over. I might not get, or I might, be too busy. I might book my client load too heavy, or I might not giving myself enough time for reading. And so, I miss my goal or my objective. So I would say, wow, well, I have missed that alarm a couple times, and I'm missing, the sunrise and my flowers or the birds or my walk or my news or whatever it is that you're missing. Maybe it's just an emotional state that you're missing, maybe happiness. So I need to give myself the command. I will get up when the alarm goes off no matter what. You give yourself the command the day before, you find your body following suit. That is the power of autosuggestion, and that is how to effectual change. And we're going to talk about that more on how to secure a positive new normal for you in the event of all this, even despite the type of relationships you've been through or the degree of success you've had in this area previously. This is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Peace out. Have a beautiful day.